Good evening, everyone. I have the opportunity to interview Democratic Senate candidate Amy McGrath, and she joins me now. Hi, Amy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. We've got a lot going on.
Starting off with kind of a tough question, Amy Coney Barrett was confirmed yesterday. I'm going to ask you directly, would you have voted for her, and why or why not?
Well, I made very clear that I don't think that the Senate should have been voting on any nominee right now. We're in the middle of a national crisis where 225,000 Americans have died. Senator McConnell himself said 4 years ago, with 8 months to an election when there was an open seat for the Supreme Court, he said, let the people decide. Here we are, 8 days to an election, and he rammed through a Supreme Court nominee. And what's even worse than that total hypocrisy is the fact that that's not what the Senate should be working on right now. We have, Kentuckians need aid. We known that the coronavirus was not going to end at the end of July. And instead, he went on vacation all summer long. And instead of working on the aid that this country needs to get through this coronavirus, for businesses, for families, for schools, he's playing politics. So no, I would not be voting. I think that's the wrong thing to do right now. We should be working on aid. Let's get us through this national crisis first.
Since you mentioned coronavirus, you've said before that McConnell isn't doing enough for COVID relief. Why do you think it's important to provide more financial relief?
It's not Amy that believes that we need more financial relief and more resources. It's like hundreds and thousands of economists that don't want our economy to go into a depression right now. We're teetering on that. And it's also Kentucky families. You know, we have 1 million Kentuckians that have filed for unemployment sometime in the last few months. I've got my fellow Kentuckians, some whom I went to school with, you know, they've lost their job back in March, and the jobs are not there. Senator McConnell, I know he spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C., but, you know, he's not looking after Kentuckians right now. We have 300,000 Kentuckians that don't have health care in the middle of a pandemic, and he's still trying to take away health care. That's what the Supreme Court nominee was all about, taking away more health care from people. So yes, we need more aid. We need to also have a national national plan for testing and tracing. Why? We have 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the world's COVID cases. We're losing anywhere from 500 to 1,000 Americans a day. At the height of World War II, we were only losing 250 Americans a day. And we didn't stop fighting that war. We took it on. Senator McConnell just wants to give up. You know, he doesn't want to help us. He doesn't want to come up with a plan to mitigate this virus. I have a plan to do that, to help businesses, to help families right now. And we need that now more than ever. I mean, 36 years in Washington, we have the middle of a national crisis, and he's still playing politics. It's almost unbelievable.
And bringing McConnell up again, you even have the sign behind you. He said in the debate your campaign is about being a Marine, a mom, and that he's been there for too long. And you've agreed with him. Why is that?
Well, one, he has been there too long. 36 years is long enough. He has turned into somebody that represents Washington, D.C. and the swamp that he built more than he represents Kentucky. And yes, I'm a Marine. Everything that I have done in my life as an adult, I've been to serve this country. I swore an oath 6 times to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I know what it's like to protect and defend this country. I know what it's like to put this country and Kentucky above my political party and my own personal power and wealth. I do not believe he does. And the third piece, I'm a mom. Yeah, I'm a mother of 3 small kids. And you know what? That informs everything that I do in my life and how I look at things. So as a senator, you know what, the thing that I'm going to look at the most on every piece of legislation, how does it help Kentucky's families? How does it help us? You know, I'm somebody that deals with having to homeschool my kids right now in the middle of a coronavirus. I've had to do that back in the spring just as much as anybody else. You know, I get it. I'm somebody that understands the value of childcare, paid family leave, universal pre-K, healthcare. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. I don't think Senator McConnell gets that. I mean, he wouldn't be continually trying to take away healthcare from people in the middle of a coronavirus if he understood that.
And touching on what's important to you, what's the first thing you will do when elected, or the most important thing?
Well, I think it's what's the most important thing for the people of Kentucky. And right now, as we have a crisis of epic proportions, if you think about this as the first major international crisis in a century where no one in the world is looking to the United States for leadership, I think we need to have leaders that tackle this coronavirus, that do it with a plan to mitigate it, to save American lives, and to save our economy and help working families get through this right now. You know, my loyalty is going to be to families. It's going to be to workers, regular people, not Wall Street, not special interest groups, not the wealthiest 1%. That's where Mitch McConnell's loyalty lies. And so the number one issue is the coronavirus, tackling it, keeping people afloat, and then it's fixing our healthcare system. The Affordable Care Act was not a perfect piece of legislation, but we're Americans. We fix it. We make it better. We don't undermine it for purely political reasons for a decade, trying to throw it away for a decade legislatively. And now, of course, he couldn't do it legislatively, so Senator McConnell's trying to do it in the courts. Why? Let's fix it. Let's give people more choice with a public option that you could buy an Uncle Sam plan if you want to. Let's get prescription drug prices down. I have a great idea. You know, Medicare, Big Pharma, they make a ton. Pharmaceutical industry makes a ton off of Medicare. Let's allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices from them. That's a great idea. Who stops that? Senator McConnell stops that. Well, why? He gets the most money from Big Pharma than any member of Congress. That's why last cycle, last year. And this would bring down prices for Kentuckians. Everywhere I go, people tell me I'm paying $1,500 a month for my prescription medication, or $3,000. I can't afford it anymore. I have to go to Canada to get prescription medications. And the thing about it is, this is bipartisan. There are 6 bipartisan bills that passed the House already that even President Trump would sign, because President Trump has said that getting prescription drug prices down is one of his number one priorities. He can't ever get it done. Why? Mitch McConnell. And follow the money. You know, that's the kind of corruption that we're all tired of. And that's not a left thing or right thing to say. It's not red or blue. It's just 36 years, man. We got to get rid of him. The corruption is out of control, and it's literally hurting us here in Kentucky.
We've talked a lot about your message and everything that you stand for. It's the final week of voting. If you could sum it up in just one sentence, what is your message to undecided voters?
Kentucky deserves better. Our country deserves better. When you have a senator who is going to represent you and your interests, we have better health care. We have lower prescription drug prices. We have investment in infrastructure of the future, broadband, cell phone coverage, making sure that we invest back in us. We don't have a senator that sells out to big business, sells out to corporations and the wealthiest 1%. And it comes down to this very fact. Look around. Are things getting any better? If things are better for you than they were 30 years ago, than they were 6 years ago, then maybe Senator McConnell's your man. But for so many of us, it's not getting any better. He doesn't have a plan for the future. He hasn't had a plan for the last 36 years, and look at where we're at. COVID cases are on the rise. Prescription drug prices are on the rise. Co-pays are on the rise for healthcare. He's still trying to throw it away from people. Our infrastructure here in Kentucky is some of the worst in the country. We have some of the lowest wages in the country with the highest cancer rates in the country, some of the poorest counties in the country, yet we have one of the richest senators. Enough is enough. We deserve better.
And I know we're kind of running out of time, but last question for you. Another thing McConnell has said, he has stated that you support statehood for Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. Is this true? And if it is, how would you make that happen? And why are you for it?
What? Senator McConnell is more interested in other states than he is in Kentucky. I'm interested in Kentucky. I'm interested in getting us the things that we need. When I go around Kentucky, nobody asks me those questions. Only Senator McConnell cares about that. You know why? Because for him, it's all about his power. It's all about Washington, D.C. politics. I care about Kentucky. Yeah. Am I somebody that believes that we should have no taxation without representation? Yeah. And so I've always believed in the basics of our democracy, that anybody who's an American should be represented. So sure, we ought to have a debate about how that representation happens for those Americans that are not in Kentucky. I'm okay with that debate, but you know what? It's not the first thing on my mind right now when COVID cases are on the rise and we have 230,000 Americans dead and we have an economy that hasn't been this bad since the Great Depression. So what I would say to Senator McConnell is keep your eye on the ball. Your eye's been off the ball for a long time. And here we are, and look at where we're at. You know, we need senators that care about us and care about what Kentucky needs.
All right, Amy, thank you so much for your time. I'll send it back to you, Morgan.